Call the meeting to order. Stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. John.
Present.
Scott.
Here.
Mark.
Here.
Stephanie.
Here.
And Dale's here. I'm gonna look over the agenda.
The only things that changed from what I sent to you last night is the Anhydrous and Ammonia license application got added, and then I had forgotten that you guys tabled the tax, so that's been added.
Did we ever close our tax equalization meeting, or do we need to do that, or,
We haven't thus far, no.
I mean, we can't do anything anyway, so.
Yeah, we closed it.
Did we?
No,
I
I
don't think we did.
think we left it in
Left
recess in case we wanted to make
Yeah. We should open.
any changes, but
Oh, we can add next meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
motion by Scott to approve the agenda as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mark. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Barring none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'm gonna look over the meeting minutes for September 9th and September 14th.
The only thing that changed from what I sent to you last night is Wayne did, and I have the wrong date for the meeting out in Bismarck. I had the 5th and it's supposed to be the 4th, so that has been changed.
I'll make a motion to approve the September 9th and 14th meeting minutes
And dispense with the reading.
and dispense with the reading.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Mark to approve the September 9th and September 14th meeting minutes as presented and dispense with the reading. They're seconded by Scott. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Barring none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll look over the vouchers for the month.
There's one bill on page 7 to Wesley Strait that's gonna take that account over. It's I talked to Jamie this morning. It's coming out of the right account. That is for him to be a witness at a jury trial, and the state will be reimbursing for a part of that. It going over that line, it's only going over budget. There is still $18,000 in that fund.
Say, Wayne?
Yep.
Is everything done up at the shop in Binford?
Yes.
We got the toilet and the water and everything all runs and works and great. Good deal.
Yeah, this was for furnace repair, the
Yeah.
Nest Plumbing.
Okay. It just made me think of that. This
Yeah.
year everything was working up there.
Yeah, that furnace repair, that was done last October. We didn't get the bill till now.
I'll make a motion to approve the bills.
Motion by Mark to approve the bills as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Stephanie. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Barring none, we'll proceed to vote. John?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Mark?
Aye.
Stephanie?
Aye.
Dale votes aye. Motion carries. Wayne, it's up to you.
Up to me?
Yeah.
It's in your packet, we got email with project updates from Paul KLJ. And then he updated our federal aid sheet. We added on County Road 19, be from 200 south to County Road 26. And chip sealing the Sutton Road, that's CMC 2003. And we put in a bid date of February 12th, 2024. So if Dale would sign one of these sheets, I've got copies. I've got a sheet. If you approve, go ahead with that. And
These are just plans. We can change them, but
yeah, can change it after. We'll probably, I'll bring that along to the meeting on October 4th. I don't know if anyone is coming. Anybody gonna come out there?
not I.
October when?
October 4th for the conference, and at 1:15 in the afternoon on Monday, we meet with the DOT. Kind of go over the way we're supposed to do things. You know, when it's a federal aid project, we gotta send out an RFP for engineers and go through that process of selecting an engineer to do the construction engineering.
Do I need a motion to sign this?
Probably need a motion. Right now, at this time, there's no
Or do it.
project number, but they might have that for us. And I may bring back one with the project numbers on to sign it again and we'll send
Okay.
it back in. But at the last meeting, we agreed to put some other projects in, or to show that we still need funding.
I get a motion to go forward with the county aid or the federal county aid program sheet.
So move.
Motion by Mark to approve the proposed projects for federal aid. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Scott. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Barring none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Other than that, our Durapatcher burnt out the control valve, so we had to quit our crack sealing for now, but who knows when it's gonna come. Parts are so far behind,
November?
probably next year. But,
Okay.
Mark had mentioned something about, gravel on County Road 15, there were some black spots, they're gonna look at it, probably just sprinkle a light coat over for now. And then next summer we'll re-gravel that.
15, that's Mackville Road.
What's that one from, it goes past Hazards and
Oh, okay.
up to 65, just the south. South 15, there's north, is the Mackville Road.
Yeah.
Other than that, I guess I haven't got anything.
All right, thanks, Wayne.
So if you'll sign that, then I'll take it with.
Yeah. Want to drop these off to
Okay.
Sam when you go? Thank you.
Thank you, guys
Yeah, thanks, Wayne.
and gals.
I guess next we got the letter that Sam's proposing to put in the tax statements when they go out, to give a little explanation towards the errors that were made with the formula to
Tried to keep it as simple as possible so that it didn't confuse things, but it kind of explained this, enough. And then this way, Greek on a page, so then I'll try to cut down on the printing expenses and stuff, and then that'll insert in everybody's tax statements.
I made a couple changes in it, Sam, just so you don't have so many phone calls.
Okay?
And it's your letter. This is just a rough draft. As a result of a question dealing with property valuation, an error in the formula used to calculate taxable valuation was discovered. This formula was previously supplied by the state during my initial training and has been used for many years. The particular error caused some properties to be undertaxed and was dependent on the value of the centrally assessed property, parentheses, power lines, pipelines, wind towers, etc., within the township. Given the fact the error was made in favor of the taxpayer, Griggs County will take no action to recoup these funds. This formula has been corrected moving forward.
Well, imagine there's a number of people that wouldn't know what the centrally assessed properties are.
No. Yeah.
And then and some properties weren't affected by it at all.
Right.
Right.
And it happens to be the townships on the southern end that have the biggest,
Oh,
because we have the pipeline, the railroad, and the wind towers, so.
and the city of Cooperstown too.
Probably not.
They were probably got the raises because of some of the taxing entities
Sure.
raised valuations. So
Sure.
probably not this particular
Okay.
formula.
See, I think mine went up 8 or 9%, the consolidated tax across the board, so that,
Mine was probably 5-6%.
Yeah, and that's probably all
City went
related
up
to.
about 10%.
Yeah.
Right. So,
But 2% of that was evaluation.
yes, yeah.
But, yeah,
But this particular calculation, what it did was it caused the centrally assessed properties to be added twice,
yeah,
which
Yep.
raised the value of Griggs County, thusly everybody's share was less.
sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So it didn't go across the board, and there's other reasons why some individual pieces of property went up. There's some properties that went down.
I didn't have any of those.
No. No, but I mean, just because of the process of equalization, there
Sure.
were some properties that were raised, of course, and some that were lowered. Overall, the residential was up by 2%. The commercial was brought down to the same level as the residential, commercial, and
Ag.
ag.
Okay. But the net effect was everybody paid a little less tax for the last 8 years.
Yeah, 7, 8 years.
We've got a letter from the Office of the State Auditor. It appears so.
As far as your changes, John, why don't you just get together with Sam sometime and
Well, it's her decision, so
Yeah.
I just made some rough changes. We don't have to okay this anyway,
No,
so I'll just
no.
give her, and
No.
she can do what she wants.
She can
leave
do
it
what
the
she
way it
wants.
is.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's her decision.
As far as the state auditor letter, I received a phone call from the state auditor's office informing me that our auditor, Harold Rotunda, it has been put on the do not approve list. They started looking into some of his clients and they found some mistakes and they dug a little deeper and it got to be even worse than what they were thinking it was. So now, because of that, the state auditor's office will be coming in to audit my books from 18, 19, 20, and 21s. I did have a phone call from a gentleman wanting to kind of start getting some information together right now, so that process is starting. One of the emails that I did receive from him was that this will probably cost us at least $25,000.
So the reason that it's being audited is because the state requires the counties to be audited on a yearly basis, and then the state has to sign off on that audit. So the state can't sign off on an auditor that they now have decided his work isn't up to par. How can that be the county's problem? This has to do, we did what we were supposed to do. We hired an auditor.
Yeah.
He reports to the state. Now the state has decided they don't like the auditor. Then why didn't they tell us that 4 years ago? And why should the citizens of Griggs County now have to pay for that? Because the state is just they're just following what they're bound to do by the Century Code. They're supposed to audit the counties.
Well,
I don't see how this is our problem.
If I'm reading this right, it states that they didn't receive our 2018 or 2019. How did we not know, is my question. I get
Because
an annual audit every year. And when Ed Bailey does it and submits it to get approved, I get it back knowing it's completely done. How did we not know that we didn't have these done?
because the state never told us. So the process is, we hire the auditor completes the audit, and we have to have that in order for the next year for the budget. He gives us the approval of the audit, then he turns it into the state, and then the state gets back to us saying, yes, that audit has been turned in, approved or not.
But it's already passed us. We've already gotten the information from the auditor that we needed.
I have the audits, I have them in my file, and I sent them over to them, and I said, well, do you want them? They said, yeah, we'd like to see them, we can't use them now, but we would like to see them. I usually don't get anything back from the state auditor's office until they've approved it, and then they'll send me a letter saying, this was, we'd like you to make this change, but other than that, it looks good. That's usually the only thing that I've ever gotten back from them.
Right, and you should get it from the state, and, it's just,
Yeah.
have you received a letter from 2020 audit yet?
No, he hasn't.
Have we done 2020 audits?
No. I gave Harold all my stuff, but that's as far as it's went.
What's our time frame on our audits? When are they due by?
The audit is, the state is complying with their portion of the Century Code. The audit isn't necessary to us. The audit is necessary to the state for their oversight of the counties. So we go forward with our process. The state has now deemed that their process, the Herald and into their hands, isn't correct. I don't know what but evidently they've received more complaints about Harold than we are made aware of, because he audits a lot of different counties, a lot of different entities. I think he does the school. I think he does the city.
Really?
And so this isn't something that's related to us. This is related to Harold, and they're going after every entity that he had his hands on.
Right, because he didn't even hand in our audits from 18, 19, or even 20, that we know of.
We don't know. We don't know, because it's the state's responsibility to tell us whether or not the audit has been turned in and whether or not there's anything needs to be done with it. So we assumed it was done until we now can assume that it wasn't.
Yeah, well, you can never assume until you have a letter in your hand.
We don't need it. We don't need the audit for anything. For the county to do business, we do not need the blessing of that audit. The state needs a blessing of that audit to prove that they are doing their oversight.
How much
That's
does
unfortunate.
Harold
That's
charge us?
unfortunate.
Huh?
How much did Harold how much did he charge us usually?
Well, he never does. He gives us $3,500, I believe, is the last bill we saw.
Wait, we billed for 10,000, didn't we, for a while ago?
That was for 3 years.
That's 3 years, okay, so it was, okay.
So, I mean, this isn't like it's a one-off instance. Harold has his hand in a whole bunch of counties and a whole bunch of entities all through the state. And I would imagine, we'll never know, but I would imagine there's a real difficulty somewhere, not in Griggs County, but that somewhere else with involving him, and that's what raised the question here. I don't know. I mean, audit Griggs County, there's been nothing done wrong in Griggs County. I don't imagine there's anything done wrong anywhere. The state looks for abuses in the taxation process of these audits. That's what it's about. It's to make sure that they're following the Century Code when it comes to property taxation.
Well, we're required to do an audit every year just because we're using federal funds. When you receive federal funds, you're always required to do an annual audit just so. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I understand. Not us.
Okay, so
So what they a lot of times they'll look for is some entities will levy property tax and then build big reserves into their budgets. And there's limits to the reserve. 75% of the budget can be reserved. So they'll look for that. They'll look for other things as far as moving money around for different purposes in the budgets. That's really what the state is looking for, is their oversight of the property taxation. And as far as the federal monies that come in here, we're audited. The federal will conduct audits on that independently. So Wayne will have to supply money for the road department. We'll have to supply an audit of the road department. The engineer will, of where the federal money went. And that's independent of the audit that Harold does.
That's the audit of the project, not the department as a whole.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah,
As far as the 2020 budget, I received enough information for us to do the budget for 2022. But that's all the information that he's gotten me. I mean, every year that is a huge fight to even get that.
and what usually happens is we see the budget, Harold will turn it into the state will come back and say, change this, this, and this, and they rubber stamp it, and it's good. So we've taken the approach that we just keep a closer eye on the budget ourselves and make sure that it's within the guidelines and it's
Sure.
always below it because we're not overtaxing.
Yep.
And because Harold, and it isn't like we haven't questioned Harold many times, he just quit coming talking to us. Too many questions, he just quit coming.
Yeah, we haven't seen him for 3 years at least.
No.
I seen him up to see here just a couple months ago.
I don't think you will anymore.
He remembered me, he says, hi Dennis, and I said, oh, Harold.
So I don't know what happened, but
So going forward, we're gonna have to hire a different auditor, and it's not gonna be $3,500 anymore.
yeah, I gotta read, we'll have to have Jamie read the century code and see what our obligations are.
Can we have somebody else to the state do it? And can we hire somebody else to the state doing it?
No, the state is the final check.
The state
They
is,
has to.
the state is
Okay.
gonna come in and re-audit those books for those years, and then we either continue with them or we can go and find somebody outside, but the state auditor's office will be doing it for those years, is what
Actually,
he was telling me.
for that many years, at 25,000 probably isn't that bad a price compared to if you have your business audited quarterly. It's
Yeah. Well, it all depends on what the audit entails. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
the audit that we had done didn't entail anything more than looking at the end result of the budget.
made sure the addition was right.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that, because he never gave us a real up-to-date figure
Oh,
on the unencumbered funds in the county. But so the question is, no matter who does the independent audit, the state is always,
Overseas.
yeah.
Oversight.
And evidently not real good if they've been rubber stamping Harold for years. Which tells you the purpose of the audit isn't really to help us out, it's a regulation, you know.
Yeah. Wayne's going out there fourth, maybe you can just take what they need out there.
I know there have been instances where the state has, because of the audit, come into certain municipalities and told them or school districts and told them they have too much money in the reserve and they have to thusly not tax as much as they have been. But as far as fraud or theft or
No.
something like that, that's,
it's
No,
not
I don't
detailed
think
enough
that's the
for.
issue.
no. And in today's environment, that's pretty hard to have that happen. It isn't like the county gets paid in cash where someone can grab it and run, you know. So what was the timeline, Samantha? Who was gonna do it?
I had a phone call from Brian from his office that wanted to start now, and I'm not sure what exactly their timeline is. He had kind of thought he wasn't going to request the information until like October, November sometime, but I've already been contacted now, so.
It says we expect to begin our audit approximately January 22nd and issue our reports no later than March of 2022.
Sam, they give you a timeline how long it's gonna take?
You just read it.
Between January and March.
March. But,
Yeah. I guess it doesn't affect our day-to-day operations, so.
Very good. I don't think we need any motions, right?
No,
To put
that's
them at,
just FYI, this is what's
Yeah.
happening. We got an application for an anhydrous ammonia license from Finley Farmers elevator.
I sent this on to the township, Cooperstown Township, and then they sent it back to me because there is the, they need the approval by the county board chairman, and they did not feel comfortable signing that. I did tell them that we don't have zoning, and then that would be up to the township, but since they have a spot for your guys' signature, they'd like that there.
I talked to Todd Erickson in Finley yesterday, and he says it requires the approval of the county, the township, and the city can extend their area of control a mile out farther for anhydrous plants, so everybody has to
Yeah,
approve
looks to me like
citing
Greg,
of,
the township already signed it,
yeah,
so. And the state has approved it.
yeah. It meets their guidelines for citing, so.
Yeah.
So unless,
We just need a motion and,
yeah,
okay, I'll make a motion to approve the Anhydrous Ammonia license application for the Finley Farmers elevator.
motion by Scott to approve the application for anhydrous ammonia plant siting in Griggs County. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mark.
Where did the state sign this?
Uh,
Is that the stamp?
That's just a notary public.
They've applied for the, I saw it in, where I read it someplace, they got it approved in August by the state. They paid their fee. Remember where I saw it in here someplace.
It says, in the bottom of that, it says North Dakota Department of Agriculture use only. It's like $100,
Oh, yeah, there it is.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's just recorded, that's just,
Or they don't approve it until it's approved here.
right.
No. Anybody else have any concerns on this? Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Barring none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Pose same sign. Motion carries. Do you have a copy for me
Who
to
made the
sign?
motion and who seconded it?
Scott made it. Mark second.
Thank you.
Do you have a copy for me to sign, Sam?
Yes, I do here in the office.
Okay.
I'll leave it at the window.
Okay. Tax director's next on the agenda.
I was just curious where we were with that. Where are we currently advertising? What are we offering? What are we doing with this? Because I'm a little concerned because we don't have anybody there. We're coming to the year end and we haven't done any, technically our sales ratio is due by March, not in June and July. So we gotta have that in there because in June, we had the first 10 days in June to actually have our, meeting to make the decision as far as with the sales ratio.
Right now, we are advertising on those one websites that you had asked us to a few months ago.
Do we want to try throw it in the local paper again, just to,
Throw it around everywhere. Also, it's only what, a 3/5, it's like a 20-hour-a-week job, 25-hour-a-week job.
oh,
And maybe we need to make it a better position, make it maybe a 4-day, 30 hours a week instead of just 24 or whatever. And I'm sure there's enough work that they're behind on to catch up on.
Didn't we discuss this with, like, have them share it, whoever it is, share it with, like, Connie and, you know, the extra hours, correct?
Well,
You know,
I
just
mean,
shuffle 'em- whoever it is, shuffle them around, you know?
at 3/5, it's already paying way too much for the services that are rendered. I mean, we got by for how many years here with the little bit of work that's done.
Not very efficiently, I would say. I mean, we need somebody in that position, and we need to entice somebody to take that position.
For what purpose, Stephanie? To satisfy a requirement of the state that they use,
Yes, that's why. That's why.
that they use in turn to take money out of the citizens' pockets of Griggs County. So I don't see why in the world we should be in favor of taking money out of our citizens' pockets in order to satisfy a regulation of the state that doesn't benefit the citizens. It doesn't benefit the citizens to pay more taxes. The tax director does nothing but inflate valuations and take money out of our citizens' pockets. It doesn't benefit us any, so thusly we should just abide by the bare minimum. Just because a state makes a rule doesn't mean that we have to go by it. And actually, our state constitution says that the smaller entities have more power than the state. So we get by with what we've been doing. We're supplying them with information that we don't need to do our job in tax equalization. And your explanation is because the state requires it? Well, I'm not going for that. And I don't think that the citizens of Griggs County will go for that either. That's the silliest argument I've ever heard, that we need to hire someone, use the taxpayers' dollars to hire someone to take their money from them. That's not why I was put in office, I know that.
Not just take their money, but to regulate it, to make sure it's even, make sure it's balanced, to make sure it's done properly.
Do you know what the purpose of the tax director is? Have you read their duties? That is not what their duties are.
Okay, what are their duties?
Look them up in the Century Code.
Well, you know them, so inform me. What are their duties?
Their duties are to oversee the assessors and make sure that the assessors have and compile the information, exactly what we're doing now. They don't have any way to compel an assessor to be on duty. They don't have a way to compel an assessor to do his specific job. That's the job of the townships. I see no purpose in the tax director's position other than fulfilling the need for the state to be in the county's business. And again, I get a lot of complaints as a county commissioner. I've never had anybody come and complain to me that they want their taxes raised.
They were too low.
So if we need to position, yeah, we need to position, but we shouldn't spend a whole bunch of money to fulfill the position. The Century Code says that the county commissioners have the right to decide on the salary and the duration of work. If it was good enough before, I don't know why it's good enough now, but you're not going to convince me that because the state made the regulation that somehow benefits the citizens of Griggs County. You did the work. I mean, you did a very good job of it, and you saw how long it took you, not very long. We can hire someone to do that and still fulfill the requirements of the state. By the way, we don't need the sales ratio study to do our job as equalization either. We don't even use it.
You don't?
No, we don't.
So where did we get that percentage from to raise it and lower it? Where'd that come from?
That comes from the state, and that comes from that study. But that isn't something that is the duty of Griggs County. That's the duty of the state. If the state wants that information, they should be able to bring someone in and look at our books and get that information. We've always maintained that. We do not use, you sat in on the equalization meeting, we do not use the sales ratio study. We use the valuations given to us by the townships. And that doesn't require a sales ratio study.
Sam, that printout that we used with that percentages on it, that was what comes in from the town. The sales tax ratio, what I put in.
No, not sales tax, sales ratio study.
Yes, the sales ratio study that I did, that's where you guys get your numbers from.
No, the state wants a sales ratio study. We just
Yes.
want, the state does, not us. We don't use that. We use what the assessors give us as far as valuations. And valuation doesn't require a sales ratio study.
Well, I'm confused because the report that we went off of to raise and lower to that 90%, 90.5%,
Yep,
those numbers came off of the report that I did,
for the state.
the sales ratio.
Yeah, for the state.
Yes,
That
yes.
we were fulfilling the obligation of the state. We didn't have to raise those valuations. We could have said no, and they would have come to Samantha and made her raise them. That's outside our scope of duties. And we have, in fact, said no on a few occasions. So that whole process of the sales ratio study is that of the state, and they're only taking one item out of there. There's 3 other items that they can use. Where the property's located, I forget the other 2, but they say in the century code that sales ratio study is only 1 of 4.
But it's the only one they use.
It's the only one they use because it's quantitative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I think we should have a tax director or someone to send out leaflets to help the senior citizens,
Veterans.
veterans, and the disabled. And when we didn't have a tax director, we could never get them to do that anyway. But that's a minor process. That's
Yes. I think our Veterans Affairs gentleman does a great job making sure the veterans
Yeah.
sign up for those things.
But I think we decided before that we're going to try to offer this as an incentive to the
Locally.
employees
That we already have here.
that we already have here.
Yep.
And then that 3/5 salary makes quite a bit of difference to if we can offer that to an existing employee. And we
Right
can't.
now, the tax director's position is being advertised on the North Dakota Assessors Association of Assessing Officers. It's being on there. I'm not able to find it. I want to say that we put it on the South Dakota Association of Assessing Officers and the Minnesota, but I'm not able to find it at this moment.
Mhm.
And then it's on our website as well.
And we can't do anything but ask as far as the elected officials.
Yeah.
But there are employees within the county or jobs within the county that are not elected officials that we could combine to make that a provision.
So, question, is there anything, we haven't had a state tax director for like 2 years now, roughly? Roughly. Is there, can the state do anything against us for not having somebody in place?
Can't
That's my question for you guys.
drag somebody off the street
I
and
know,
make
I'm
them
just
do
saying
it.
that
Right, so we've
you follow
asked
what I'm
that,
saying?
so we've
Yeah,
asked that,
yeah.
so that's why we keep advertising. And
Okay.
we're not saying we don't want one, we're saying we don't need a full-time one.
Okay.
And that is our decision to make.
You know,
And we're still getting the work done that we need to have done to hand in to them. So,
Anyway, we should probably advertise in some newspapers so it's
Yeah.
a little more widely available. And
But I mean, if we could put together a package and offer it to somebody within our system, that would, I think that would be the way to do it. Or we can keep doing it on a piecemeal basis. We can hire someone
To do our,
to do what, it doesn't say it has to be a full-time position, doesn't say it has to be a part-time position, it can be farmed out. We could hire someone to do the reports that need to be done.
is there any conflict of interest between the treasurer's office and doing this, since they're collecting and doing it?
I don't know if there's a conflict for interest, but it's certainly a detriment to an elected official, because
Yeah.
if you're an elected official, you want to be helping the people that vote for you, and if you're the tax director, you could just be the public hangman. You're not very
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah, your Christmas list just shrunk.
So to combine those duties probably doesn't work.
But I mean, how about her assistant?
I think
You
it
know,
would
if
have to
she's
be
already
outside
got-
that office, I think.
Okay. That's what I was kind of thinking too, that it would be a conflict, but maybe not.
You know, at one time we contemplated putting a pool of secretarial pool, and then let them work within all the different offices rather than having the assistants assigned to
Yeah.
each office.
Yeah.
I think they do that in Steele County.
They do
That's-
that in Steele County.
Yeah, they got
Oh.
their
Because
deputies.
it's a lot more efficient use of personnel.
Their deputies rotate between offices
Yeah.
depending on who's gone, and
Okay.
Yeah.
they're it's some office. If you look at their budget, they've got the
Yep.
3 days a week they have somebody, or 2 days, and
Yeah. And then that provides continuity too. Then you have more than one person that.
Do their job, other jobs.
And when somebody in office decides not to run anymore, now you have more than one choice for who's gonna take that position too. But,
Well, you know, Connie's leaving next June,
Yeah, she had 30th
so
of June.
she's doing a lot of the duties now, so once she leaves, we're kind of SOL for any of those duties.
I think we had that discussion back in December of last year, where, you know, we were looking to have somebody come in part-time in the fall to help make sure all the notices get sent out, and that sort of thing, and then somebody to help with the sales ratio study again.
I think the problem with it being in the treasurer's office, it overlaps with when they're busy with tax collections.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's
Yeah,
Is there monthly tasks that she does for it, daily tasks, or is this only certain times of the year where they need them? Is
for
it-
the tax
I'm not
director,
entirely sure.
for the tax
The
director,
things that Connie is currently doing, that's like the tax director duties.
she just, I mean, as far as I know, she mails out the forms for the farmstead,
farm
Exemptions.
exemptions.
Yeah.
the homestead tax credits.
yep.
It's
That's
not.
that December work.
Yeah, so it's seasonal. It wouldn't be monthly. And then as far as providing supervision to the assessors, of course, that's a duty that we,
And Connie's been handing out
right,
their kits or whatever and
Yeah.
putting that together for them.
yeah. And then the other problem, the reason we don't have the reason it's so hard to have one is because the state made the training so
Yes.
onerous that no one wanted to step up. So before, you or I or anybody could be a tax director.
I think you only had to have, maybe 1 day training,
Yeah,
and then now it's
You have to be
it's 4 days of training.
you have to be an
3
assessor.
times a week or 3 times a year,
yeah.
and it gets to be a lot.
So for the bigger counties, yeah, it made sense when they because they do need someone full time. For the smaller counties, it just put them in a position where they,
And the townships.
yeah, and the
It's
townships.
why we lost so many assessors too.
Yeah. Most of them lived in the townships that they were assessing and
Well,
that sort of a thing,
Mhm.
you know. I think Fred Nuremberg was our assessor for
Forever.
43 years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we lost our assessor when they put the requirements in because they're
So how can you have 43 years of experience
and not knowing.
and not qualify for what the state wants you to do?
Well, I think the problem was some of those guys are there for so long they didn't want to upset the apple cart and raise
Well.
anybody's valuations, and
Yeah.
I could kind of see that with our
Yeah.
assessor we had, that it's easier to just leave it as it
But
was
maybe
rather
what
than.
we should be thinking about doing, I mean, if we got an ad for a tax director, we probably should try to write down what their duties should be. And then we can put together a price and offer that to somebody. See if someone would like that that's already in our system. Right now, nobody really knows what their duties are.
Oh, we've listed the century code
Yeah,
as a reference in the ad many times, and of course,
yeah,
it kind of makes, if you're advertising for a tax director and you're willing to take someone who knows nothing about being a tax director, should you be offering that position to that person?
And we've asked the
Graham.
state for the minimum
yep,
things that need to be done for that
Yep.
position, and they send us the century code.
Yeah.
Well, can Connie give us a list of the duties that she does that would go back to the tax director? And if Sam does anything, have Sam send us a list of duties that she's currently doing that would be given to the tax director. That would probably be the easiest way to do it instead of doing this century code, reading that. I mean, what are we doing
Well,
for that position? What is Connie doing for that position? How to write the list?
the
Figure
The
out-
duties of the tax director are defined in the century code. It's as easy as looking it up, and the duties of the tax director sometimes have been farmed off on the tax directors that were actually duties of the auditor and the treasurer. So some of the things that the tax director was doing were not the tax director's duties. I can read them to you. Give me a second here.
I like the idea of having Connie write down what she's doing. Since we're doing the bare minimum currently, we could figure out what was the bare minimum that we're doing. And what would she give to that tax director to do? That kind of thing.
Yeah, that'd probably be a good way to figure out if somebody in-house wanted to take it
Yeah.
on, if they knew exactly what was going to be on their plate. Now it's a little murky.
yeah.
Or they could go talk to Connie.
Well, and sometimes the person leaving doesn't want to help. So that way when they're gone, they can say, boy, we sure miss them.
Right.
Well, besides, if you just ask them a lot of things, you're not thinking of everything.
That's right.
But if you write stuff down, then you
Yep.
get something and you say, oh, this,
Yeah,
so that person can get the right idea.
yep.
Because if I could ask you what you had for dinner, and you wouldn't maybe be able to tell me.
Maybe.
Best write it down.
Yeah.
Who was our last tax director?
David.
David was. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was pretty good at his job.
Yeah. We've been getting by for 2-3 years without him. It's been quite a savings.
I think, then last December or so, I asked Connie to put a list together, right? Remember, right?
I want to say, yeah, that she did.
Yes,
I
she
know
did.
that Connie has a list
Yeah, she
somewhere.
does.
Does she?
She does. I'm pretty sure I asked her to do
I
that.
imagine she has to look at it to see what needs to be done.
Yeah,
Remind
she
herself,
put that together. I saw it. We had actually,
And dates and that sort
Yeah.
of stuff.
in fact, it's in the somewhere in the minutes, I think. Go back, December or something like that. It was basically asking what she needed for help for her
Mhm.
during that time period when she's got everything else going on.
Yeah,
What it
when
was.
tax collections are coming
Yeah.
in, she,
You know, as long as we're reading century code, I believe that century code claims that the auditor has to do whatever the county commissioners put on to her.
You don't say, huh?
You know that's what it says too.
Well, in October, I know that the tax director would usually post all of the homestead and veterans credits, and I need those posted before I can start my levies. And then in November, they need to get a list of modifiers for the commission to give to the state. Those are just two things that I'm coming across on my yearly calendar, just right now looking.
Again,
Homestead.
those,
State
I'd
report.
refer everybody to 11.10.1.05, powers and duties of the county tax director of equalization. None of those duties are in there. And the state, when you talk to them about that, they'll give you and I hate it, well, not all the duties are in the century code. Well, if they're not in the
remember, you
century
can't
code,
take
and
the
the
century
century
code.
code is a law of Griggs of North Dakota, then how can you assume that those are the duties? So,
There's no addendums to that century code either. It's
yeah, you've read it. I mean,
Yeah.
there's 5 different items. I mean, I can paraphrase it here. He has the power and responsibility to call upon and confer with the assessors of the county. Number 2, in a population of a city under 5,000, the same duties. Supervise the assessors. The county director of tax equalization shall supervise all individuals performing assessor services in the county and arrange for the assessment of property within the county, except within the jurisdiction of a city or township, where the government body retains an assessor. So nothing there. Any city or township that does not retain a certified class 1 or class 2 assessor shall utilize the certified assessor of the county. So that was one duty that they can assess property within the township or county if there isn't already an assessor there. And any assessment made by an assessor that isn't certified needs to be certified by the tax director. But the tax director has to hold the credentials of an assessor, and that can be up to a 2-year process.
Oh, unless the assessor has it himself.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
And unless the assessor, you're correct.
Right.
And so right now, I don't think we have any assessors within the county that
They're not certified.
aren't certified.
Right.
Not that I know of.
So that's 5 little paragraphs are the duties of the tax assessor. And we can put
Okay,
them,
well,
we can
let's-
put them in the minutes next time.
Let's advertise in the papers like Dale was saying, and then get a list of from Connie and from Sam as the duties you were doing that you would pass off to these people. So like if you're gonna train them, you're not gonna give them the century code. When you train somebody, you'd be like, hey, you're gonna do these things. You see my point?
sure.
You know, so if we have a list of those duties as to what would be given from Connie to that person, from you to that person, let's have that. And we can base upon how many hours. I mean, if that takes 24 hours, it's fine. If it's gonna take more than that, let's take more than that. Let's just look at that position. I don't care if it's 24 hours or whatever it is, but I think we need to have a game plan as to what exactly they'll be doing, besides taking that tax director position.
Get an outline of what needs to be done when, and shop it around the employees in the courthouse and see if anybody wants to take an additional duties on
Yes.
for.
I'm in favor of that, that's fine.
Okay.
Let's just not create something that
Sam,
we
could
don't
you
need.
and Connie compile a list of everything that you do and and maybe outline how long you think it takes to accomplish those. So people know what they're biting off if they're gonna take it on
And I
And
just,
they would just-
internally.
No,
and I just sent you Sam, I just sent you the century code of the five duties in there also.
Cause the
know,
process would be a
think
lot,
that-
the
yeah,
process,
If they think that, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dale.
no, I was just gonna say the process would go a lot smoother if one person took care of this within the courthouse rather than one office does a little bit and one does a little bit and some of it's left undone until somebody's
But see-
demanding it from us.
You gotta remember, if we assign the duties to someone, that starts the clock ticking. And now that person has to be certified within the 2 years or no longer can do the position. And
Mhm.
Okay,
The tax director does. Or if you had another assessor that you hired or something, but the tax director would be the best thing to do it, right? And you got one man taking care of the assessing and the,
well, no, the tax director doesn't do any assessing. The tax director
He's gotta be
collects,
he's
collects.
gotta be licensed for it.
Yeah.
They can assess.
Hmm?
Yeah, they can assess if we don't have an assessor, but it's
Right.
not their primary function.
Right, not their priority. Good.
It's-
Okay. All right, thanks, guys. We'll keep it on the agenda and keep rolling with it until we get somewhere. Because believe you me, March is coming. And we need to get these things done by March, and I don't want to be getting a letter in June and July saying we've got 10 days to get this in, otherwise they're gonna mandate a whole county to be reassessed. I don't want that again, that was terrible.
Carrot and
Unless you
stick.
guys want that.
Old courthouse, new courthouse. We got anything there?
I do have one thing, one of the employees, would like to purchase from, property from Griggs County that's on an inventory but doesn't need to be anymore. Is there a process for us to do that? I know that we usually would have to put it out for bids, but I didn't know if, there was some other way that an employee can pay the county something and then take some property, or what's the process of that?
By property, you mean land, you mean?
Well, yeah.
Sorry. It's a computer stand desk.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
So, I guess it didn't matter if it's land. No, the answer is no. Anything that's sold by the entity has to be able to be purchased by anybody and anybody. So you can advertise it, you could put it on a list and say, and we could advertise a bunch of things for bids, and then the high bid goes to the high bid.
I think we had tried to do this. I want to say that I had asked this question before, and then that struck the whole, let's get a list together, and then nobody had a list big enough to even do anything with. So I think that's where it got put on hold, but I wasn't entirely sure what
but see,
the dishes.
that's where what John was talking about, even just a few things on a list, it'd be easy to put in the paper and ask for bids, and if nobody signs in, nobody signs in. But it still can get rid of it.
I remember when we had those chairs up in the courthouse up there, on the old place? I think Jan Stefan says, anybody wanna buy these chairs? Went up and grabbed 2, 3 of them, $5 a piece, and away we went. I mean, that's what we did with it, cause I mean, it was,
Until someone says,
That
well, I didn't get the
I didn't
chance
get a
to buy
chance
those
to do
chairs,
it."
where's my $5 chairs?
chairs left.
Yeah, I know.
There's maybe still some up there.
No, I think you can set up a website of things for sale too.
I've seen counties advertise stuff on Bisman even.
Yeah, that would be pretty simple.
Yeah.
taking bids, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Like a time limit.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Sam, you could sell it off, but if someone complains, then we didn't follow the
Throw it in the
fair
garbage.
practices.
Throw it in the garbage and then somebody can pick it out of the garbage. That's.
They've done before, I guess.
Why don't you, you know, it was such a small list, and there'd be nothing for us to, would posting it on the
Yeah, but-
website be enough?
The ad would have been more expensive than us doing
Yeah.
any.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I'm saying is maybe just posting it on our website.
That should work.
Yeah, that's kind of the trouble. The ads cost more than the revenue generated by the item you're
Yeah.
gonna sell.
The website should work though, I mean, for sale.
Do we have to run an ad saying that we're having a website? We do have a website if things come up for sale. I mean, like you say, it's almost easier to throw it in the garbage and.
Ask Jamie if we can
Yeah.
have an ongoing site to get rid of
Surplus property.
Surplus
Surplus
Yeah.
property. 'Cause there's always a certain amount of that stuff
Yeah,
all the time.
Yep.
that's kind of what the
Okay, I'll talk to
state,
you.
that's kind of what the
Okay.
state does.
Yep, I think it probably just stays on there for like 2 weeks at a time, and after 2 weeks, the high bid, and it just goes away.
Yeah.
This, Bismarck, the state has a place out there for federal and state.
Yep.
You know,
Mhm.
talk Bismarck there, you can get stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Future business.
Future business, at the next meeting, you guys will, discuss the budget, and, the public hearing will be that night. So that will be October, 7th is your public hearing.
At what time?
6.
That will be at, 6 o'clock, I do believe, but let me just make sure of that.
That's by statute.
Is it? Okay.
Public hearing will be at 6, yeah.
So is that a combination, public hearing and commissioner meeting, or just public hearing?
Your commissioner meeting will be at 4:30 that day.
Okay.
It's not the 2:30, it's at 4:30. And then, that generally helps to roll it in right into the public hearing, so that we're not waiting around for a few hours like we usually do.
Okay.
So it's a public hearing for anybody that wants to make comments against what we're proposing as a budget. And then we can act if there is someone that says and says, oh, we don't want you to spend X amount of dollars on the road department, and here's why. Then we could take that under advisement and either act or not act on that particular allegation or objection. And all we can do is lower the budget amount. We can't raise it. And we can't act on anything that hasn't been brought up by a member of the public at the meeting. So we couldn't go there and I couldn't say, I oppose the budget in general, I'd like it lowered by 10%. And if no one in the public said that, I couldn't even make the objection.
It's gotta be itemized, I think, isn't the type part, you just can't.
Well, no, it's gotta be brought to us by the public. That's the reason of the
Right.
public meeting. So we don't get ever get anybody there.
Nobody ever shows up, usually.
No. No. And we have to keep it open for half an hour.
Yeah.
So it's not a big deal.
Keep.
I mean, unless you've got
No,
a
I don't.
constituent that has something that they take issue with in the budget, then have them come there and voice it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a way of raising objections.
Yeah.
I don't think the school still quite understands what all went on.
Do we have anything else for the good of the order today?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion by Scott to adjourn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mark. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any further discussion? Barring none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 3:40 PM. Next meeting is October 7th at 4:30 in this room, followed by the budget hearing at 6 PM. Thank you, everyone.